Hello and welcome to the Common Archetypes. This is the segment of the channel where we discover our power by discovering ourselves. Okay, so today's topic we're going to dive into the most youthful archetype, the most childlike archetype. Remember, these archetypes are childlike, not childish. However, they can get a little bit childish. So these are the most youthful archetypes. This is the innocent and the charmer. These archetypes are very transformative archetypes. All right. So just keep that in mind. If you have this archetype, you probably associate with being a dreamer, with looking at life through rose-colored glasses. Most of the time, innocence and charmer goals is for everyone to get along. This is why they are the childlike archetype, and it can get a little bit childish because most people look at their goals as naive. But generally, these are people who look at life through rose-colored glasses. They want everyone to win. They want everyone to be okay. If you're listening to this, you've clearly been in the world long enough to know that's not always the case. But for these archetypes, they really do believe that these are the archetypes of transformation. So first off, we're going to talk about the innocent. The innocent is the feminine pole of this archetype of transformation. Again, they're very childlike. The innocent is very curious. She looks at life through rose-colored glasses. She looks at the best in people, even people who do not need her to look at the best in, okay? So imagine dreamer looking at life through rose-colored glasses. This is also the archetype of manifestation. Whenever a woman or a man wants to manifest something, they're looking at their life through this rose-colored glass of, this is what I want to accomplish. I'm manifesting this, I'm manifesting that. This is a very dreamy archetype. When you're tapping into the dream world, you're tapping into this innocent archetype. And also the transformation aspect of the innocent, just like young girls. If you've been a young girl or if you're not, most young girls, there's a point in their life where they play dress up. The idea of playing dress up, transforming into this person or that person or that person, or wearing your mother's heel because you can't wait to grow up to be an adult. The innocent is very dreamy, very transformative. So this is what this archetype embodies. She looks at the world through rose-colored glasses. And like I said, she always sees the best in stuff. She's also an empath. Because of her childlike qualities, she's also very curious and very receptive to the world. Again, think of kids. Kids are very curious. Kids are very receptive to whatever is happening around them. They might not always listen to what you're saying, but they will look at your action. Kids are a pretty good mirror of a society. If you really want to know how a society functions, look at the children. They're a really good mirror of how that society functions. They're a really good mirror of what that society values. Kids are very receptive. They're very, their minds haven't started forming yet. So they're looking at their environment and taking everything in. This is the same with the innocent. She's looking at her environment and taking everything in. Very dreamy, very transformative. The thing about the innocent is, because she always looks at the bright side of stuff, she tends to fall in harm's way. Again, like I said, these are the archetype of their goal is for everyone to get along, for everyone to win, for everyone to be happy. It's a very easy goal, but it can also be a very naive goal if certain parameters are not put into place. So the innocent will mostly find herself in harm's way because people think she's a sucker. People think she's a lick, and people think she's borderline, let's just, for lack of a better term, not that smart. But that is not true of this archetype. She's just very dreamy, and she just looks at the world through rose-colored lenses. This can also be detrimental in relationships because a woman, or I guess a man, who embodies this archetype is going to look at their partner through rose-colored glasses. They would think their partner can do no wrong, even though most people are a combination of bright and dark. And even these archetypes, as we're going through them, they are also a combination of bright and dark. So the innocent would tend to romanticize her partner, romanticize her career, romanticize her family and the environment until she discovered things are not as they seem. Things are not as I thought them to be. And sometimes people who do embody this archetype will feel as though they are stupid. And yes, I did put stupid in quotations. They are stupid. How could they fall for this? But again, it's just It's because of her perspective. It's because of her childlike vigor. It's because of her joie de vivre or joy of life. It's just because of the perspective where she's looking at the world that can kind of make her fall into situations that some of the archetype might look at. How did you not think this was going to be okay? But the innocent is a dreamer at heart, and she wants everyone to win, and she wants everyone to be happy. So if you do embody this archetype, I would say definitely pair this archetype up with the sage, which is much more analytical, or even the destroyer mother. We haven't talked about those yet, but those archetypes will really help you balance the dreamy aspect of the innocent and help you be grounded. But again, what I want to remind you is if you connect to this archetype, it is not that you're stupid. It's not that you don't know what you're doing. And a lot of other archetypes will tell you you're dumb and you don't know what you're doing just because they don't see the world the way you see the world. The innocent, again, very dreamy, and she operates on a dream perspective. Now, to the masculine part of this archetype, this is the charmer. The charmer is the masculine pole of this archetype. He's the same as the innocent. Very dreamy, very curious, but also very adventurous. Whereas the innocent transformation tends to be an internal thing, the charmer's transformation tends to be an external thing. He's the adventurer. He loves going places, discovering new things. This is a man of culture. Those well-traveled people, they're embodying this archetype. The charmer is dreamy. He wants to go to a new place. He dreams of traveling, okay? This is a very dreamy archetype too, just like the innocent. Whereas her dreams are more internal, his is more external. So this is the traveler, people who just travel left and right. They learn about new cultures, they learn about new horizon, they learn about new things, because this is also a very curious archetype. So this is also the archetype of the forever learner or forever student. So if you feel like you're a student for life, you probably embody one of these two archetypes. So the charmer goes out on explorations, on adventures, just finding out new horizons, dreaming of this place where he's going to explore and he's going to find new stuff. And funny enough, because the charmer is so cultured and he's so adventurous, this is actually the male archetype that attracts most women. Women like stories about where you've been. You've been here. Oh my gosh, it's so cool, blah, blah, blah. Out of all the masculine archetype, this is the archetype that is going to attract most women. Just caveat. Just putting it out there. But yes, the charmer is an adventurer. He likes wandering places. He's very fast moving, fleet-footed. And again, his transformation, unlike the innocent, comes from who he encounters in those places he's going through. As he's learning about new cultures, as he's learning about new ways of life, he takes those things on and transforms in those ways. And again, this is also a very dreamy archetype. So the charmer, just like the innocent, has this concept of the dream girl, the girl who's going to come in and, I guess, fulfill whatever desire he thinks, whatever. It really depends, right? They have this very dreamy concept. And the same thing when they're in a relationship, when they're in love, they tend to pedestalize their partner, look at their partner through rose-colored glasses. He's not listening to any advice anyone is telling him because he's in love. She's perfect. She's amazing. Same thing with the innocent. He's perfect. He's amazing until that dream gets shattered. And for most people who embody this archetypes of transformation, that dream will always be shattered. No one is ever going to live up to your expectations. No one is going to beat your imagination. This is a very dreamy archetype. The way you see the world is completely different than any other archetype. And no one is ever going to live up to the dream you've conjured up in your mind. All right. So just like the innocent, if you have this archetype, it's a very youthful, it's a very curious and very fun archetype. A lot of people love both of these archetypes because they're fun, they're laid back. The charmer especially, he's telling you about his adventures here and there. It's like people are like, wow, you really did this. And the innocent too, she has her other experience that she tells people and people are like, oh my gosh, girl, I cannot believe you did that. They're very fun, laid back, they are receptive to the world, they're open-minded and open-hearted, they take everything in. That is why people love them. However, just like a kid, they can be a little bit reckless. Just like a kid, there's some stuff they tend to pedestalize, whereas you might need to double check this a little bit. So for both of these archetypes, again, pair it up with a more subtle archetype, with a more analytical archetype, just like the sage, or maybe you can even pair it up with the mystic archetype because they're very mellow, but we haven't talked about those yet. All right. So, oh my gosh, I forgot another thing. I guess this is what happens when you don't write scripts for your videos. But I don't care. I'm still not writing a script, at least not for now. But the innocent archetype is also an archetype that shows up in women or girls who consider their mother to be their best friend. So that is a big indicator. If you are really close to your mom to the point where she is a very close friend or even a best friend, you probably have the innocent active. This is not the only time this archetype shows up, but that is also a big indicator. So yes, you can be an innocent without your mother being your best friend. However, usually girls whose mother are their best friends express this archetype more than others. And the charmer. The charmer can be an archetype of birth order. It can show up in anyone. However, it is also an archetype that tends to show up the most in second born sons. Meaning, if you have an older brother and you are the second son in a household, the charmer is probably going to be active in you in some capacity or another. This is just something I have seen time and time again, including in my own extended family. So even though the charmer can appear anytime, there's a high chance you will have this archetype active, meaning at least at your top 3 if you're a second born son. And the same with the innocent. It can appear anyhow, but there's a high chance you will have this active if you consider your mother or your caretaker to be your best friend. But it's usually your mother. All right, that's all. People who tend to have these archetypes, this is an archetype of transformation, like I said, and curiosity, and forever learners and adventurers. Most of the people who tend to embody these archetypes tend to be in careers such as entertainment field. These are your comedians, your actors, your tour guides, anyone who's like showing you new places, especially that charmer archetype, showing you new places, showing you this culture, explaining this thing to you. I guess that's why the entertainment field can be a little bit two-faced. I'm kidding, but not kidding. Because this archetype is very transformative. They can transform into blah, 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 blah. Just like actors need to transform into this role, that role, that role. Actors are a really good embodiment of this archetype. But honestly, anyone really in the entertainment field probably has this archetype active because it's a very dreamy and childlike archetype. It's a very fun archetype. It's a very laid back archetype. They don't take stuff too seriously. They're very laid back, they're very chill, and they're very fun, and they're very exploitive, and they make you go and be a kid again. Most people who tend to embody this archetype, their inner child is very much more awake than anyone else because they're very dreamy and imaginative. And a good movie depiction of this archetype, again, that dreamy, imaginative, any Disney movie is basically the innocent. Any Disney movie, wishing upon a star, wishing to fulfill your dreams, wishing this guy will come get you. The wishing aspect, the manifestation aspect, any Disney movie is the innocent. And the same with the charmer. He's also a dreamer, right? So maybe like the Indiana Jones series where he's adventuring and venturing into these new places. The James Bond series is also a good one. You know, James Bond, he's with multiple women, and most women tend to be attracted to the charmer because of his life experience and the way he does see the world. He's very chill, very laid back, not too serious. So women actually do like that. The James Bond series is also a good example. And I would say probably the best movie for this that I know of, maybe there's more out there, I don't know, is the movie Catch Me If You Can. And the main character where Leonardo DiCaprio was this guy who would take on these different aspects, these different jobs, and trying to evade the police by pretending to be this person, pretending to be that person. That is charmer energy 101 right there. The fact that he's able to maneuver all these places, changing and transforming into all these different careers. And again, in that movie, without the credentials, because one aspect of the innocent and the charmer that I actually left out is because of their dreamlike qualities, they're also really good communicators. And one thing to note with good communicators is they can also be great manipulators. These archetypes can manipulate people into doing a lot of stuff, and the manipulation is usually through communication. All right. So, example, the charmer, just like the movie Catch Me If You Can, he was conning his way through stuff. Charmer archetype can easily con you into stuff because they're youthful, they're energetic, so they can be kind of assuming. Most people don't think they have bad intentions, just like kids. Like, most people don't think they have bad intentions. However, the charmer can easily con you into stuff. I guess I had a career for con men here too. He can easily con you into stuff through his manipulation style. And the innocent as well. She can easily con you and she can easily manipulate you. She usually uses tears for her manipulation tactic. These are very youthful and childlike archetype. However, sometimes they can lean into the childish side where they don't take accountability, they don't take responsibility. They might pretend, yes, I'm taking accountability, and then go on to tell their story of how they're not really taking accountability or responsibility, right? And they can easily manipulate you. The innocent, most of the time when she's manipulating, she will use tears, and you ask her, okay, so what happened? What happened here? And then she starts crying. Maybe an event happened, and she's actually the person who did the thing. She was the aggressor. And then you ask her, okay, so how could you do this? She's going to start breaking down, going to start crying as if she's a victim. Okay, this archetype can easily turn manipulative really fast. And the same with the charmer. Because most societies do not, I guess, allow men to just cry their eyes out most of the time, the charmer's manipulating tactic is through over talking, oversharing. He is telling you a bunch of stories. Again, this is also the archetype of the adventurer. So he's telling you a bunch of stories, and you're here listening. You're like, no, I was asking about how my laptop broke. Why are you telling me XYZ thing that has nothing to do with why my laptop broke? He's convoluted. He's just talking. And one thing to know, if you have this archetype, or if you are dealing with people who have this archetype, is the truth is always clear. All right. Water's wet, the sky is blue, my sweater is white. If they bring you around the rosy, just like a kid, did you take a cookie out of the cookie jar? No, I didn't, because Jessica and You cut that out right there. Make it clear, make it simple. They will try to ring you around. And again, when they're in the immature state, they can get very clingy. Just like children who seek attention. They can be very clingy, they can be very possessive. At times, they will try to manipulate their way through a situation. Conversation is not just talking. Conversation is also being silent and not saying anything. Sometimes they will just sit down, be quiet, look like they're a victim when they're not. So just note, even though it is a youthful archetype, it can take on immature youthfulness, which is the curiosity, which is the looking at life through rose-colored glasses, which is the seeing the good in people. It can take a more childlike approach, but it can also easily take on a more childish approach where they do not take responsibility, where they do not take accountability, where they are always the victim. Something is always happening to them. They have no agency in their own lives, in their career. Anyway, it's just like something is always happening to me. They're the forever victims. No, you're not a forever victim. You do have agency in the world. And the unfortunate thing about people who do embody this archetype is because they're so youthful and they're so childlike, some people will tell them how they should run stuff. And sometimes people who do embody this archetype will rely on other people to guide them through life. But what you need to know is you are in control of your own life. If you do have this archetype, I do know that sometimes the immature side of this archetype can come on because of your environment, because of your parents, or because of your friends. It's not necessarily the innocent or the charmer are trying to manipulate, but it's just, this is something they've been used to. And the people around them have always told them what to do, so they kind of listen to that. But there is also an aspect of the innocent and the charmer who do actively manipulate. So I do understand that the manipulation tactic can be a learned behavior, but what you need to know is you are in control, you are in charge, you embody transformation. More than any other archetype, it is easier for you to manifest or change into something else. And talking of transformations, one of the transformations of the innocent, particularly, I'm going to talk about both of them, but one of the transformation the innocent takes on when she does, I guess, incorporate a new aspect of her life is the transformation into the nurturing mother. Most people who embody this archetype, when they become mothers, they take on the role of the nurturing mother. Because they're so receptive, they're all actually curious and forever learners. She will take on that role of that mother, that caring mother, that mother who gives everything to her kid. That mother who is very receptive, very attentive to all of her kids' need. And in that aspect, she will transform into the nurturing mother. Another aspect that the innocent can also transform into is the queen archetype. We already talked about the queen archetype. These are the CEOs, these are the leaders. And innocent, once she has decided that this particular career no longer fits her and she wants to make something that is herself, that is for herself, and she's okay to take on that challenge by herself, she will transform into her own version of a queen archetype. It's not necessarily a queen archetype by itself, but it's like a queen archetype who is willing to lead, who is willing to leave her mark on the world, who is willing to build an empire for herself. It does not have to be in accordance with society. It can really be anything because, again, she's the embodiment of transformation. And a third transformation that the innocent does take once, I guess, she has gone through life, once she has used her power of transformation, once she has gone through all these series of life events, is the visionary. And the visionary is truly a unique archetype that just stands on its own. This is the archetype that comes about when the innocent has gone through various parts of life. It's usually both good and both bad. And people who embody the archetype of the innocent, instead of seeing life through rose-colored glasses, they start seeing life as a whole. They start seeing life maybe through rose-colored glasses, purple-colored glasses, blue-colored glasses, whatever. They are encompassing the whole picture. They're not just looking at the bright side of life. They're also looking at the dark side of life. They're also assessing their pros and their cons. But instead of being bitter about it, instead of regretting that all of these bad experiences have happened to me, they have incorporated both those good and both those bad. And they realize that, yes, I still want everyone to win. I still want to live a joyful life. I still think this is possible. However, now I have placed perimeters in place. Not everyone is good for me. They have realized that. Now they're more apt in picking their allies or picking the people that should be around them who does want to fulfill their goal of let's all win, let's all be happy, and just let us make a world that is for us. Once people who do embody this archetype take on that aspect, they take on that perspective, they take on that vision, they become visionary. The visionary archetype also has one of the psychic gifts. Visionaries tend to be clairvoyant. These are people who have gained wisdom through experience. And I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with all the clairs. Clairvoyant, clairaudient, claircognizant, and clairsentient. And these are all psychic gifts. And sometimes people just say, I'm clairvoyant, I'm clairsentient, and most of the time we don't know where that comes from. But any of the psychic gifts, they come from wisdom of experience. Meaning you have gone through life and experienced some stuff in your life to the point where you're just able to tap into the 5D in a way that no one else is. And the visionary archetype is able to tap into that 5D in a way that no one has. She has shifted her perspective. She has shifted her vision from rose-colored glasses to seeing the world fully. She's not afraid of the dark side of life anymore. She's not afraid of bad actors. She understands these people exist in life. And yes, they can be bad actors because of something happened in their life. That's fine. Because again, visionary, they are the next transformation of the innocent. So they still have that same goal that the innocent have of everyone getting along, of everyone winning. However, she's more cautious of the people she's putting in her life. It's not necessary that she doesn't like you, but she's going to put up boundaries. Whereas the innocent has no boundaries, just recruiting everyone. Let's go along, let's tag along. The vision is more like, you know what? You might be a good person, but for right now, you're not a good fit for me, and I wish you all the best over there. Okay? You are not getting into her circle if you were toxic. You are not getting into her circle if you're a bad actor. And it's not because she does not like you, but it's because she can see the whole person in front of her. She's not just looking at the good side. She's also looking at the not so good side and how that can potentially impact her and her goals and sometimes her team. And the same thing with the charmer transformation. Just like the innocent, the charmer, once he becomes a father, he can turn into the caretaker. This is a man who will give everything to his kid. He's very attentive. He's very receptive. So he still has that charmer quality. However, as a nurturer, the focus is more on the survival of the kids. The focus is more on guiding and mentoring his children. And the charmer, again, just like the innocent, he can decide this career path no longer fits me. Or he can decide he has gone through all his travel, he's explored the world, and he's going to take that knowledge, he's going to take everything he's learned about all these different cultures and make something for himself and make an empire for himself or make a company for himself. In that instant, he will transform into the king archetype, which is the CEO archetype, the masculine part of the queen. So he will take on that more king role, that CEO role, where he is more protective of his workers, where they have a shared vision, and it does not have to align again with society, but it's more so of an enterprise that reflects him and his values. And again, just like the innocent, the charmer has a third transformation. He has accumulated knowledge from his travel. He has seen the world fully, both the good part and the bad part. He's not just romanticizing the world anymore. No, he's aware of stuff that no one else is aware of. And he's able to tap into that 5D in a way that no one else can. And this is when he transformed into the magician. The magician is again, just like the visionary, is an archetype of clairvoyance. This is when the charmer has accumulated all his life experience from all his travel, from all the people he's met, from all the cultures, from all the good and bad experiences. He's not romanticizing anything anymore. He's more aware. He's willing to put up boundaries. Yes, he still has that effervescence. Yes, he still has that joy of life. But now he's taking in everything he has learned, everything he has seen, both the good and the bad, and becoming a magician who is able to create something that is just astronomical, out of this world, that can just be called magic. Okay, the visionary and the magician archetype, they're both very dreamy and they both want everyone to still win. However, perimeters have been put in place. They're more aware of bad actors. They're more aware of people they should keep in the team than not keeping the team. And again, it's not out of malice, because these are very dreamlike archetype. They really want everyone to win, but they know for them to win or for them to accomplish their goal, this bad actor cannot be here. And now they're more aware of that and they're willing to put up those boundaries. And just like the innocent, the magician is clairvoyant. So another thing to note when I'm talking about the clairs, when I say this archetype is the archetype of clairvoyance or of clairsentience or of claircognizance, it doesn't mean these are the only archetypes that can have that psychic gift. Think of it like this. Famous people tend to also be wealthy and rich, whereas wealthy people aren't necessarily famous, all right? Of course, a famous person can be poor, but that's usually because they've squandered their wealth, they invested in something they shouldn't have invested in, or they were just spending money left and right, and that's why they lost that wealth. However, usually when you are famous, you are also wealthy. When I say the visionary and the magician or clairvoyant, that's what I mean. Usually, the visionary and magician are clairvoyant, unless I guess they do something that will not make them clairvoyant. However, Any other archetype can be clairvoyant. Any other archetype can have this gift. It's not just unique to them, but there's a high chance that they will be clairvoyant because this is the archetype for clairvoyance. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. All right. So lastly, how does archetypes tend to express their love language? Again, the masters of communication. The love language tends to be word of affirmation. They're very inspiring. Just think of like that cheerleader who's cheering you on. Go, 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 go. They have that energy. They have that joy for life. So their love language tends to be word of affirmation. And again, they like receiving words of affirmation. So if you're this archetype, or if you're dealing with someone who has this archetype, you know how to get on the good side. All right. So that is it for this episode. Please let me know what you thought in the comment section below. And let me know if you identify with this archetype. Is it in your top? And by identify, I mean, is it in your top 3? Do you consider yourself a dreamer? Do you consider yourself a forever student? Are you curious? Are you adventurous? I actually think a lot of people embody these 2 archetypes, but mostly the immature side of these 2 archetypes. But I do actually think a lot of people do embody this archetype. And it is great that these archetypes are so transformative. So if you do embody this archetype, just know your power is transformation. Don't be afraid to transform. I don't care if people are telling you, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. You do it. Especially if you embody more of the innocent side, which is more introspective, where she transforms internally, where the charmer tends to transform externally due to his environment or the people around him. If you just want to transform as an innocent, just transform. You don't need to ask anybody's permission. Just do it, okay? You are in control and you are in charge. But yeah. So, do you embody this archetype? Is this in one of your top 3? Please let me know in the comment section below. If you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other podcasting platform, please feel free to leave me a 5-star review. All right. Thank you so much for spending your day with me, and I see you next week. Bye.